The day I opened that cellar door, my dear, I swear the air changed. It was colder than I remembered, sharp, heavy, and filled with a kind of silence that felt alive. The light from my lantern trembled on the old stone walls, and for a moment I thought I heard him again, my Henry, his boots on the floorboards above me, the faint hum of his favourite tune. Lord have mercy, even after 10 years in the ground, that man still haunted these walls. I didn't mean to go down there that night. I'd promised myself I never would. Not after what happened the winter he passed. But the storm outside was roaring something awful, wind howling through the shutters like it had a message to deliver. And I swear to you, sweetheart, I heard his voice whisper my name through that storm. Ruth, it said, clear as day. I dropped the teacup in my hand. You see, Henry built this house with his own hands, all 10,000 square feet of it. Out on the edge of Willow Creek, Virginia. Everyone called it the McAllister Estate, but to me, it was just home. Old brick walls covered in ivy, white pillars like a southern dream, and that big wraparound porch where we used to sit every evening watching the sun set over the fields. We had everything money could buy, darling. A Cadillac in the garage, diamond china, French chandeliers, you name it. Folks thought we were the picture of perfect love and luxury. But what they didn't know was that Henry's heart was heavier than gold. And the cellar beneath this house held a secret that could ruin the McAllister name forever. I can still remember the day he showed it to me. 27 years ago, he'd just finished the construction, said he wanted to build a private wine cellar for his collection. Lord, that man loved his wine more than he loved Sundays. But when I stepped down there, I knew it wasn't just a cellar. It was too deep, too cold, too carefully designed. Rows of oak barrels lined one wall, but behind them, there was another door. Steel. Locked. He never let me near it, not once in all our years together. Now you tell me, sweetheart, what kind of husband builds a second door in a cellar and tells his wife never to ask what's behind it? I didn't question it back then. I was younger, foolishly in love. I told myself every man deserves his secrets, and Lord knows Henry was a complicated soul. But as time went on, I noticed the changes. The long nights in that cellar, the phone calls he'd take in whispers, the way he'd flinch whenever I asked about the business trips that left him gone for weeks. And then, one night, I heard him cry. Not just cry, beg. I woke up to the sound of him on his knees in the hallway, whispering like he was praying, please, don't make me do this again. I didn't understand what he meant, but that same night, he went down to the cellar and didn't come back till dawn. When he did, his hands were shaking. There was dirt under his nails. Oh, honey, I knew something wasn't right. But sometimes love makes you blind, and silence becomes a habit you live with. So, I let the years roll on. We grew older, the house grew quieter, and that steel door stayed locked, until the day the letter came. It arrived a month after Henry's funeral. No return address, no name. Just one line on a yellowed piece of paper. The truth lies beneath what he built to hide. Now you tell me, what's a widow supposed to do with a message like that? I tore it up, threw it in the fire, but that night I dreamed of him, standing in the cellar, lantern in hand, motioning me to come closer. His eyes weren't kind like they used to be. They were desperate. When I woke up, I swear I could smell the earth. Damp, metallic, and strange. The same scent that used to cling to his clothes after those late nights down there. So, I made myself a cup of tea, wrapped my shawl around me, and told the Lord, if there's something I'm meant to see, I'll see it tonight. The wind was wailing when I opened that cellar door. My lantern flickered, like it was scared too. and for the first time in 10 years, I walked down those narrow stairs, my old bones protesting every step. It felt like walking into another lifetime. The scent of dust and oak, the sound of dripping water, the cold breath of secrets that had been buried too long. I ran my hand across the wine barrels, whispering his name like he might still be there. Henry! What were you? Hide in love. And then I saw it. The steel door, still locked. But there was something new this time. A faint hum, like a machine still alive behind it. My heart nearly stopped. Lord have mercy, I whispered. You didn't take your secret to the grave after all, did you? I don't know what made me do it, but I went back upstairs, found the old box of keys he'd left behind. There must have been 50 of them, all labelled in his handwriting. Attic, guest suite, garden shed, but one key had no label. Just a scratch mark, shaped like a cross. When I held it up to the lantern light, it shimmered. Gold, polished, used often. My hands were trembling, but I went back down those stairs, knelt before that steel door and slid the key in. It turned smoother than I expected, and that's when I heard it. A soft click, followed by a sound that froze me where I stood. Breathing from the other side. My dear, before I continue, if this story has touched your heart even a little, do subscribe and stay with me through the end. You won't believe what I found behind that door. I took a step back, my lantern shaking. Who's there? I said. But all I heard in reply was a whisper that sounded just like Henry. Ruth, don't open it. The whisper was so real, darling. I nearly dropped the lantern. For a second, I stood frozen. Half believing Henry's ghost was standing right behind that steel door. My heart was pounding like thunder in my chest. But you know what's worse than fear? Curiosity. It'll eat you alive if you let it. I steadied my breath and turned the handle anyway. The metal groaned, old and stubborn, then swung open with a moan that sounded too much like a cry. Cold air rushed out, thick and stale, like breath that had been trapped for years. The lantern light spilled across the room, and what I saw didn't make sense. It wasn't wine. It wasn't storage. It was a room of photographs, hundreds of them, nailed to the walls, hanging by strings, some scattered across a long wooden table. Every single one of them was of me in the garden, me cooking in the kitchen, me sitting on the porch, smiling with a glass of sweet tea. Photos from years I don't even remember taking. Lord have mercy, there were hundreds of them, each dated carefully in Henry's handwriting, and in the middle of the room was a chair, facing the wall, a camera on a tripod pointed right at it. It felt like stepping into a shrine, or a confession. Whispered his name again. Henry! What on earth were you doing, love? The lantern flickered. I took a step closer, my shoes crunching on something brittle. It was a photograph frame, shattered. Inside, it was a picture of me, younger, holding our baby boy. Only, the baby's face had been cut clean out. I don't remember dropping to my knees, but I did. My whole body went cold, tears spilling before I even knew why. You see, honey, I thought I knew my husband. We'd been married 42 years before the Lord took him. He was quiet, hard-working, the kind of man who'd fix a stranger's fence just because it leaned funny. But this was madness. Then I noticed something else. A leather journal on the desk, covered in dust. I opened it, careful not to tear the pages. Inside were letters, each one addressed to me, but they weren't love letters. They were confessions. Ruth, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't finish what I started. Forgive me. I only wanted to protect you. They said they'd come for us if I didn't keep her hidden. Her. I read that word a dozen times, trying to make sense of it. Who was her? I flipped to the next page. There was a drawing. A woman's face. Young. Dark hair. Eyes that looked too much like mine. Beneath it, one line written in Henry's shaky hand. She deserved to live free. The lantern dimmed again, and for the first time I realized. The hum I'd heard before wasn't in my head. It was coming from the far corner of the room, from a wall that didn't look like the others. I brought the lantern closer and saw the faint outline of another door, smaller, hidden behind a row of shelves. When I pushed the shelves aside, the hum grew louder. It was mechanical, a soft vibration, like electricity, and behind that door was a keypad. Now, I don't know how much you know about old Southern widows, darling, but I ain't exactly a hacker. I don't even trust microwaves half the time. But something told me this wasn't just a room Henry built for his secrets. It was a vault. I stared at that keypad, trying to remember if I'd ever seen Henry punch in numbers like that before. He wasn't one for technology, but then my eyes landed on a small photograph pinned beside it. It was of us, on our wedding day, and scrolled across the back, in faded ink, was a date, June 14th, 1962. My hands were trembling as I typed it in. 61419 6th and 2. A click, then the sound of air hissing as the door unlocked. Inside was darkness, heavy and deep. I lifted my lantern high, and that's when I saw her, a girl, barely in her 20s, sitting in a chair with her head down, hands bound, and a faint light glinting off metal shackles. At first, I thought she was dead, but then she moved, slow, fragile, like she'd been asleep for 100 years. She looked up at me, her eyes dazed, her voice dry as dust. "Where's Henry?" My knees almost gave out. She was real, flesh and bone, breathing. But what broke me, sweetheart, what froze my soul, was that she looked just like me, like I'd stepped through a mirror and met the ghost of my younger self. I dropped the lantern, light spilling across her face. She flinched, squinting, her lips trembling. "He promised he'd come back," she whispered. "He said you'd never find me." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I wanted to run, scream, wake up from whatever nightmare I'd walked into. But instead, I stepped closer, whispering, "Who are you, honey?" She stared at me, like she couldn't believe I didn't know. Then, she said something I'll never forget till the day I die. "Your name's Ruth McAllister, right?" "Yes," I said, barely a whisper. Her eyes filled with tears. "Then I'm your daughter." My heart stopped. I'd lost my daughter, Amelia, 40 years ago in a car accident. Or at least, that's what Henry told me. He said she'd died. Instantly, we buried a closed casket. I never questioned it, because love makes fools of us all. Now she was here, alive, locked inside the cellar my husband built. I dropped to my knees, crawl into her like a mother would to a crying child. "Amelia, my baby." She pulled back, scared. "You're not her. You're too old." And right then, I realized what Henry had done. He hadn't buried our daughter. He'd kept her. My dear, if you're still here, take a deep breath with me. This part hurts to tell, but I want you to hear it all. If you've ever trusted someone who betrayed your heart, you'll understand. I took her face in my hands. Soft, cold, fragile. "What did he do to you?" She shook her head, eyes dart into the corners, like she expected him to walk in any second. "He said the world wasn't safe for me. He said people wanted to take me away because of what I knew." "What did you know?" I asked. She hesitated. then whispered one word. Gold. Before I could ask another question, the lights flickered. Not my lantern. The electric ones I didn't even realize were there. Then, the hum I'd been hearing grew louder, almost angry. There was a mechanism, gears turning, metal, grinding, and behind me, the steel door began to close. I turned just in time to see it slam shut. We were trapped. The clang of that steel door was louder than thunder, my dear. It rang right through my bones. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Me staring at the locked door. Her staring at me like I was a ghost. Lord have mercy, I whispered. What did he build down here? The hum had turned into a growl now. A deep mechanical sound. That seemed to come from the walls themselves. The air felt alive, trembling with energy. I could taste metal on my tongue. Amelia, if that's really who she was, started pulling at the shackles on her wrists. They weren't tight, more like restraints meant to keep her from wandering. He said it's dangerous to open. The outer door, she muttered. He said it keeps the air clean. What air, honey? I asked. She looked at me with the same blue eyes I'd kissed goodnight when she was just 6 years old. The air that keeps the gold from dying. Now you tell me, what kind of sense does that make? Gold doesn't die. But I didn't have time to argue with a daughter who'd just risen from her own grave. I found an old flashlight hanging on the wall and switched it on. The beam cut through the dark like a sword. There were pipes running all along the ceiling, leading into a large tank in the corner. Some kind of filtration system, maybe. The hum was coming from there. I moved closer, my breath clouding in the cold air. The tank was glass, thick, reinforced, filled with a strange golden liquid that shimmered under the light, and inside it, floating like something out of a dream, was a small metal chest. Henry's handwriting was scratched into the glass itself. McAllister Holdings. Prototype Aero 1. Amelia, I said, voice shaken. Did your father ever talk about his business to you? She nodded slowly. He said he was building a future. Said the gold would breathe one day. Breathe. She looked toward the tank, eyes wide with something between awe and fear. He called it living gold. Said it could remember. I nearly dropped the flashlight. Remember. Lord help me. I didn't understand a lick of what that meant. But I knew my husband had been dabbling in things no man ought to. Henry McAllister wasn't just a businessman. He'd been an engineer back in his day, working with military contracts. Research he never spoke about. And now, looking at that tank, I realized this wasn't about wine or gold. It was about power. The hum grew louder again, and the floor began to vibrate. Somewhere behind the tank, I heard a slow creak, like another door unlocking. Amelia's eyes filled with panic. He said if anyone tried to take the gold, the house would wake up. The house would what? Before she could answer, a metallic voice crackled through an old speaker on the wall. Unauthorized access detected. I swear to you, darling, I nearly lost my mind. The voice kept repeating those words, over and over, while red lights began to pulse along the ceiling. The hum from the tank turned into a roar. I grabbed Amelia's hand. We're getting out of here, baby. Now! We ran to the steel door, but it wouldn't budge. I pulled. I kicked. I prayed. Nothing. The keypad blinked red. Then I remembered. Henry always left a way out. He was a man of secrets, but he believed in his own cleverness. I looked around for anything. A latch, a lever, something that could override the system. That's when I saw the old rotary phone sitting on a crate in the corner. An honest-to-goodness landline phone. It shouldn't have worked down there. Not that deep. But it was glowing. Faint green light around the dial. Amelia whispered, "He used to call them from here." Them who? The people who wanted. The gold. My heart turned to ice. Did he ever tell you their names? She shook her head. No, but he said they owned half the world. Now, darling, you might think this sounds like madness, but when you've lived as long as I have, you learn that the rich and powerful keep secrets buried deeper than any grave. And Henry, Lord rest his soul, had been playing with devils. I lifted the phone to my ear. Static hissed like a storm. Then a voice. Calm, male, polite as a banker. Mrs. McAllister, we've been expecting you. My hand went cold. Who is this? You were never meant to open the vault. Henry promised us the asset would remain sealed. Asset, I said, voice trembling. You mean my daughter? A pause. Then the man sighed, almost sad. She isn't your daughter, ma'am. She's what your husband made after the real one died. The world tilted. My breath caught in my throat. I looked at Amelia. Her eyes wide. Her face pale. Confusion written all over her. No. I whispered. No, that can't be true. But deep down, I felt it. That terrible intuition only a mother knows. Her voice, her face, her every gesture was mine, but not hers. Henry hadn't saved our daughter. He'd rebuilt her. Why? I demanded. Why would he do something like that? The voice on the line answered, calm as ever. Because he couldn't let go. He found a way to store memory in metal. Living circuitry made from refined gold. But when he used your daughter's remains as the model, the prototype bonded. It began to dream, and then it began to fear. I dropped the phone. Amelia, or whatever she was, stepped toward me. Mama, my tears came fast. I wanted to run, but love held me there. Even if she wasn't flesh and blood, she was still my child in some way. My dear, before I go on, if this story's pulling at your heart, do me a kindness. Subscribe and stay with me. What comes next will shake your soul as it did mine. I took her hand again. It was warm, alive. You're real to me, baby. Don't you let anyone tell you otherwise. The red lights dimmed. The hum softened. For a moment, I thought maybe Henry's ghost had forgiven us both. But then, from somewhere above, came a sound like thunder rolling through the house. Wood splintering, glass shattering. The man's voice returned, faint through the speaker. Containment breach. You need to leave before the system purges. Purge, I whispered. Amelia looked at me, tears on her cheeks. He said if the gold ever woke up, it would burn everything. And darling, that's exactly when the floor began to glow. Thin lines of molten gold crawling like veins beneath our feet. The gold on the floor shimmered like sunlight on water. Beautiful and deadly all at once. For a moment, I just stared. My breath caught in my throat. It crawled slow at first, tracing cracks in the stone, like veins in a living body. You could almost swear it was breathing. Amelia clutched my arm. Mama, it's waking up. He said it always would if someone broke the code. Her voice shook, but she didn't run. She just held on tight, like she trusted me to fix the world her father had built and broken. I pulled her close. We're getting out of here, baby. I promise. The red lights flickered, then turned white, flooding the room with a strange glow. The hum grew softer, almost melodic, like a song. And deep inside that music, I swear I heard Henry's voice again. Ruth! It's all for her. Henry, I whispered. If you're here, you better tell me what you've done. Before this whole house swallows us alive. No answer. Just that golden shimmer spreading across the floor, climbing the walls in slow curls, like roots of light. I dragged Amelia toward the steel door, but it was sealed tight. My mind was spinning for options. The air was growing warmer now. Not fire warm, but pulsing, alive, like standing too close to something that had a heartbeat. Then, I remembered the old coal chute. It led straight from the cellar, up to the garden. Henry'd sealed it off years ago. Said he didn't like drafts. Maybe, just maybe, he'd left it intact. I turned to Amelia. "You trust me?" She nodded, those wide eyes shimmering, like mirrors of my own past. We crossed the room, our feet sticking to the floor where the gold had started hardening. I could feel it humming through my shoes, buzzing like electricity. Every step felt like walking on breathing earth. At the far end of the room, half hidden behind the tank, I found it, the coal chute hatch. Rusted, heavy, but still there. I dropped to my knees, pried it open with all the strength an old widow could muster. Fresh night air brushed my face. Cold, damp, real. I could have cried right then. "Go on, honey," I said. "You first." But Amelia didn't move. She was staring back at the tank, at that chest floating inside the gold liquid. Her voice broke when she whispered, "He said that's where my memories are." My heart twisted. "Sweetheart, they're just memories. They're already part of you." She shook her head. "No. He said if I ever leave without it, I'll forget everything. Even you, Lord. What's a mother supposed to do when her child looks at her like that? Like love itself is something she might lose forever." I grabbed her hand. "Then we'll take it together." We ran back to the tank, the hum now loud enough to rattle my teeth. The liquid inside glowed brighter. As we neared, pulsing like it could feel us, I reached for the latch, but as soon as my fingers touched the glass, it turned hot. Too hot. I pulled back, hissing in pain. Amelia didn't flinch. She pressed her palm flat against it and whispered, "Daddy, please." And just like that, the light dimmed. The tank hissed open, a small door unlatching at the top. Inside, the chest floated up gentle as a feather, like it had been waiting for her. She lifted it out, cradling it like a baby. "It's warm," she said softly, "like it's alive." "We've gotta go, darling," I told her. Now, the hum turned into a low rumble, the floor trembling beneath us. That golden light started climbing the walls, faster, hungry, spreading toward the ceiling. We scrambled to the chute. I pushed her up first, boosting her small frame with every bit of strength I had left. She crawled through the narrow passage like a child again, clutching the chest to her heart. When it was my turn, I paused, turned back one last time. The cellar was glowing brighter than the sun, every inch of it alive with the gold Henry's had made. In that shimmer, I thought I saw him, standing by the tank, smiling the way he used to when he'd fix a broken clock or plant a new rose bush. "Ruth," he said, his voice deep and calm, "take her. She's all that's left of us." Then the light swallowed him whole. I crawled up that chute till my arms gave out, the air thick with dust and fear. When I finally pulled myself onto the damp grass of the garden, Amelia was waiting, shaken, crying, but alive. Behind us the house groaned. The windows glowed gold for one long, beautiful moment, then went dark. We sat there in the moonlight, me holding her holding that chest. Neither of us spoke. There were no words left. Finally she whispered, "He wasn't trying to hurt me, was he?" I sighed, kissing her hair. "No, honey. He was just a man who couldn't let go." We watched the first light of dawn crawl over the horizon. The old McAllister estate stood quiet now, just a shadow against the morning sky. And in that silence, I understood what Henry had done. He'd tried to trap love inside gold, to make something eternal out of grief. But love don't live in metal, darling. It lives in the memory of holding someone's hand when the world is falling apart. My dear, before I close tonight's chapter, if this story's touched your soul, do stay with me. There's still more to tell. The chest, the memories, and what the world did when it learned the truth about my husband's creation. The chest sat between us like a sleeping heart. Gold, warm, and softly pulsing under Amelia's trembling hands. We hadn't spoken since the house went silent. The morning mist curled around us, the garden heavy with dew, and the scent of burnt roses. I stared at that thing and whispered. He said it was all for her. But what did he mean? Amelia brushed the dirt off the lid. He used to say memories were the only thing richer than gold. Her voice cracked. What if he meant it literally? The chest shimmered faintly, not reflecting the sunlight, but making its own. I could hear a faint hum again, like a lullaby played through a heartbeat. The same melody Henry used to whistle when he was soldering gears or winding clocks in his workshop. My hand trembled as I touched the latch. It was smooth, too smooth, like glass melted by something more than fire. When I lifted it, the air shifted, cold, then warm, then still. Inside wasn't money, or jewels, or deeds. It was a small glass sphere, no bigger than an apple. Floating inside it was light, golden and slow-moving, like smoke underwater. Amelia gasped. That's what he kept in the tanks. The experiments. I nodded slowly. But why give it to us? She tilted her head, eyes wet. Maybe because it's not gold, Mama. Maybe it's me. Her words sank into me, like a blade made of grief and wonder. I remembered the hospital, the night she almost died. Her fever so high it burned the sheets. Henry had refused to leave her side. He'd whispered to her, over and over, I'll never let you go, even if I have to build a new way to keep you. That was the same week the light started flickering in his lab. I closed my eyes. Lord, forgive him. He wasn't building gold. He was building her memory, Amelia's, breath caught. My memory. He must have thought he could store it somehow, save it, so that even if something happened to you, you'd live inside this. She lifted the orb closer. The light inside rippled, and for a moment I saw her, a younger version, laugh, running through the old rose garden, Henry chasing behind her with a toy airplane. Her laughter echoed through the sphere like it was alive. Tears burned my eyes. Henry, you fool, I whispered. You turned your daughter into gold. Amelia clutched the sphere tight, sobbing now. He didn't mean to hurt anyone, Mama. He was just scared. I know, baby. Fear makes fools out of geniuses. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves around us. The sphere glowed brighter, as if responding to her heartbeat. Then suddenly, faint words shimmered inside the glass, written in Henry's hand. To my Ruth, and to the memory that saved us both. A faint click sounded, and a tiny drawer slid open at the base of the chest. Inside was an old brass key. On its handle, a small engraving. CM. Amelia frowned. What's CM? I stared at it for a long moment before the memory hit me. The one Henry swore he'd never rebuild. The clockmaker's mansion. I whispered. The estate your grandfather lost after the war. The place Henry always said held the true gold. Her eyes widened. Mama, you don't think? Oh, I do, I said, closing the chest gently. And if Henry's left us that key, then the story ain't over yet. The wind shifted again, carrying the scent of rain. And maybe, just maybe, destiny. I stood, wiping the dirt from my dress. Get the car ready, darling. We're going back to where it all began. We drove for hours through the winding roads of the old countryside. where the fences leaned tired against the weight of time, and the fields looked like ghosts of what they used to be. The sign at the edge of town had faded letters that once read, "Welcome to Clockmaker's Hollow." Lord, I hadn't said that name out loud in nearly 50 years. Amelia was quiet the whole ride. The glass sphere, Henry's final secret, rested on her lap, wrapped in her scarf. Every time the sunlight hit it, faint shadows of clock gears rippled across the car walls, as if we were driving through time itself. When the mansion finally appeared through the fog, I swear my heart stopped. There it was, the clockmaker's mansion, once the grandest estate this side of Tennessee, now a skeleton of itself. The white pillars were cracked, vines had swallowed half the roof, and the old sundial in the garden pointed at no hour that ever existed. "Goodness gracious," I whispered. "Your granddaddy's ghosts are probably waiting on the porch." Amelia smiled faintly, but I could see the fear behind her eyes. "Do you think he meant for us to find something here?" I nodded. Henry never did nothing without reason. We stepped through the iron gates, the hinges crying like lost souls. Inside, the air was thick with dust and silence. The walls were lined with clocks, hundreds of them, stopped at different hours, their glass faces cracked, but still watching. I felt them looking at me. "Lord have mercy," I breathed. "It's like time gave up trying." Amelia ran, her fingers over one of the clocks. They all stopped the same year, 1973, the year I buried Henry. We walked deeper inside, our footsteps echoing like whispers. The grand staircase leaned under our weight, and at the top, I saw a door, carved with the same initials as the key, CM. "Go on, darling," I said, handing her the brass key. "Let's see what your daddy was keeping from us all." The lock turned smoother than it should have after 50 years. The door opened to reveal a small room filled with light. Not sunlight, but golden light, the same as the sphere. In the center stood a massive clock tower mechanism, its gears glinting. Faintly, it wasn't ticking, but it was alive somehow. Around it were blueprints, photographs, and journals. Henry's handwriting everywhere. Amelia gasped. "Mama, look!" She held up one of the journals. Inside was a drawing of the glass sphere, and beneath it, a note that read, "Memory Machine, Phase 2, the Heart of Time." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. He was building a clock, powered by memory. Amelia flipped another page. There were photographs of her. From her childhood, her birthdays, her first day of school. Each one had been carefully marked, with times, coordinates, and notes about emotional resonance. "He was tracking my memories," she whispered. The gears of the great machine began to turn, slow and creaking. The sound echoed like thunder through the walls. Then, a voice, soft, mechanical, but achingly familiar, filled the room. "Ruth, if you're hearing this, it means I failed to finish it myself." Amelia froze. "Daddy." The voice continued, steady, but full of sorrow. "I wanted to build something that had outlived death, something that could hold love, memory, time itself. But I forgot what made it real in the first place. You." I clutched the edge of the table, my knees weak. I tried to trap eternity. "In gold," Henry said, but all I did was break it. The real gold was never the cellar or the machine. It was you two, my girls. The gears slowed, the light dimmed, and then, one last line, barely audible. "Set it free, Ruth. Don't let time hold love prisoner." The machine stopped. Silence filled the air again. Amelia held the sphere close to her chest, tears streaming down her face. "He wanted us to destroy it." I nodded, my voice shakier than I wanted. "'Cause he finally understood. You can't keep love in a box, darling. You gotta let it breathe. She looked at me, then at the great clock. Then let's set it free. We placed the sphere in the heart of the machine. The gears started spinning again, faster this time. The whole mansion humming, like a song being sung by the walls. The golden light grew so bright I could barely see. And then, just like that, it was gone. The room went still. Every clock in the mansion began to tick again, one after another, like 1,000 tiny heartbeats coming back to life. I smiled through my tears. Time's moving again. Amelia squeezed my hand. Mama, do you think he's at peace now? I looked out the cracked window, at the sunlight spilling through the fog. You bet, sweetheart. And I reckon he's watching us from wherever time don't matter no more. I leaned against the wall, listening to the soft rhythm of all those clocks, and whispered, Henry, you finally did it. You built forever. Not in gold, but in love. When we got back home, the house didn't creak the same way it used to. The walls still whispered, but softer, like they were finally resting after carrying too many secrets for too long. The cellar door stood open, and sunlight, for the first time in years, touched its steps. That light didn't feel heavy no more. It felt free. I poured 2 cups of tea, one for me and one for the memory of Henry. Old habits die harder than sin, you know. Amelia sat by the window, watching the breeze move through the old rose bushes outside. They'd started blooming again, somehow. Pale gold petals, soft as a promise. Mama, she said, her voice small. Do you think we did the right thing? I smiled faintly. Baby, right and wrong ain't ever been black and white. There's shades of love and regret. But I reckon what we did, setting him free, was what love's supposed to look like when it's grown old and learned its lessons. She nodded, her eyes glistening in the sunlight. We sat there for a while, just listening to the world breathe again. The clocks in the living room ticked together now, steady and sure, like the heart of the house had finally found its rhythm. After a long quiet spell, Amelia turned to me. There's something else, Mama. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small folded letter. The edges browned with time. It was inside the clockmaker's journal. It's addressed to you. My hands trembled when I saw my name, Ruthie, written in Henry's gentle, uneven scroll. The man never could hold a pen steady when he was nervous. I opened it slow, the paper soft as dust, between my fingers. My dearest Ruthie, it began. If you're reading this, I reckon I'm already sitting at the Lord's workshop, hoping he lets me fix a few of my mistakes before supper. I know I've hurt you in ways I can't measure, but if you only remember one thing, let it be this. I didn't build that machine for gold or for legacy. I built it out of fear. I was scared of losing you, scared of losing her, scared of time stealing away everything that made life beautiful. But I forgot. It's the losing that makes loving worth it. Every moment's a clock ticking toward goodbye, and that's what makes it precious. You once told me, love ain't meant to be kept, Henry. It's meant to be lived. I reckon you were right. You always were. If that machine still hums somewhere in this world, don't fear it. It ain't cursed. It's just unfinished, just like me. Finish it your way, Ruthie, not with science or metal, but with forgiveness. Yours till the clock stop, Henry. By the time I finished reading, I couldn't see the words through my tears. Lord, the man had been gone for decades, but right then, it felt like he was sitting across from me, smiling that same crooked smile that made me fall in love with him back when gas was 10 cents a gallon and the world still felt wide open. I pressed the letter to my heart and whispered, You're forgiven, Henry, and I hope wherever you are, you've forgiven me too. Amelia leaned her head on my shoulder. He would have wanted this, Mama. Peace. Peace, I repeated, feeling the words settle into my bones like warm sunlight. You bet, sweetheart. Peace and a fresh start. The next morning, we opened every window in that house. Let the wind blow through every room, every crack, every memory. The curtains danced, the dust lifted, and for the first time in half a century, that house didn't feel haunted anymore. I started fixing breakfast, grits, eggs, and biscuits, just like Henry used to love. I caught myself humming under my breath, that same old lullaby he used to whistle when he worked in the cellar. But this time it didn't hurt. I sat by the open window, sipping my tea, and watched the sunlight roll across the floorboards, like it was painting the world, new again. Maybe forgiveness don't change the past, but Lord, it sure changes how heavy it feels to carry it. I turned to Amelia and said, Honey, maybe it's time we do something with this place. Make it mean something again. She smiled, her eyes bright. What do you have in mind? Well, I said, chuckling softly, I was thinking, maybe we open it up as a little inn. Folks can stay, hear the story, breathe a bit of the history. Without the ghosts, the Golden Hour Inn. Amelia whispered. Named after him. I smiled wide. Named after all of us, sweetheart. Every tick, every tear, every piece of time we loved enough to let go. My dear, before I go on, if this story's warmed your heart even a little, do subscribe and stay close. Sometimes we all need reminding that forgiveness ain't weakness. It's freedom in disguise. My dear, if you stayed with me till the end, thank you. Tell me, have you ever loved someone enough to forgive the weight of their mistakes? If this story touched your heart even a little, do subscribe and stay close. And tell me in the comments, where in the world are you listening from? It warms my old heart knowing where my stories travel. They say time heals all wounds, but I reckon that's only half true. Time don't heal. Love does. Time just gives love the space to do its work. 3 months after that letter, the house was alive again. We'd fixed the roof, painted the porch a pale honey color, and hung a new sign out front, the Golden Hour Inn, where every moment matters. I remember the day we opened those doors. The smell of coffee and warm biscuits filled the hallways, mingling with the scent of the old cedar floors Henry built himself. The air felt lighter, like every breath was an exhale that had been held too long. People came from miles away, not 'cause it was fancy, but because they said it felt like home. Some came for the quiet, some for the history, but most came for something they couldn't quite name. I knew what it was. They came for forgiveness. You could see it in their eyes when they walked in. The way their shoulders dropped, the way their voices softened, like they were finally allowed to let go of something. Amelia ran the books and the front desk, while I spent my days in the kitchen, baking pies and listening to the old clocks ticking in unison again. Every hour, their rhythms sounded like a heartbeat, steady, alive, and content. One afternoon, when the sun was spilling gold through the curtains, I found a small wooden box sitting on the front porch. No name, no return address, just a single line carved on the lid, for Ruth. From where time don't matter, my knees went weak. I carried it to the kitchen, heart pounding like a drum. Amelia followed me in, her eyes wide. Who's it from, Mama? I got a feeling, I whispered, but let's see. Inside was a pocket watch. Not any pocket watch. His, Henry's. The same one he used to wind every night before bed, saying it kept him grounded when time felt too fast. But this time, the clock wasn't ticking. Instead, when I opened it, a small note fluttered out. It was written in Henry's old, hurried handwriting, the kind that tilted like it was running out of time. Ruthie, if you're reading this, it means I finally found peace. I kept my promise. I'm waiting for you. But don't rush, my love. Keep living. Keep forgiving. Every second you love someone. I'm right there, in the space between the ticks. Tears filled my eyes. But they weren't heavy ones this time. They were light, like spring rain. I smiled and held that watch to my chest. You fool, I whispered through my tears. Even from beyond, you're still trying to fix time. Amelia leaned her head against my shoulder, whispering, maybe time wasn't broken after all, Mama. Maybe it just needed love to start again. I looked out the window, where the guests were laughing on the porch, golden light dancing on their faces, the same kind of light that once hid in that cellar. But now it wasn't trapped. It was everywhere. I placed the watch on the mantel next to our wedding photo. The hands weren't moving, but that was all right, 'cause I knew love don't live by clocks. That night, I sat out on the porch, wrapped in my old quilt, sipping tea as the crickets sang their midnight songs. I closed my eyes and felt the wind brush my cheek, soft as a kiss. Good night, Henry, I whispered. You built forever after all, and for the first time in years, I slept without dreams. Not because there was nothing left to dream about, but because I was finally living in the one we built together. Grandma Ruth's outro. Emotional close. My dear, if you stayed with me till the end, bless your heart. You've walked with me through secrets, sorrow, and salvation. And for that, I thank you from the bottom of my old soul. Tell me, darling, what does forgiveness mean to you? I'd love to hear your heart in the comments. And if this story's touched you even a little, go on and subscribe. So next time, you and I can sit together again, just two souls sharing stories where time don't matter. It's been 15 years since I turned this creaking old house into the golden hour inn. And I'll tell you what, time has a funny way of softening even the sharpest edges. Most mornings, I wake before sunrise. The air still smells like dew and old wood, and the world is quiet enough that I can hear my heart keep in time with the clocks on the walls. Every tick feels like a prayer now. Gentle, grateful, unhurried. Folks still come and go. They sit at the kitchen table, sipping coffee and listening to the wind whistle through the rafters. And they always ask the same thing, Miss Ruth, what made you name it the golden hour? And I always smile and say, because, sweetheart, it's that sliver of light right before sunset, when everything, even the broken things, looks beautiful again. They laugh, nod, and move on with their day. But I see it in their eyes. They understand. Sometimes I sit by the big window in the parlor, the one overlooking the rose garden. It's wild now. Overgrown, untamed, alive. Amelia says it's messy. I tell her it's free. There's beauty in things that refuse to stay perfect. Amelia's grown, married now. She runs the inn better than I ever could. Her husband, Thomas, takes care of the garden, and their little girl, my granddaughter, Lucy. Well, she's the spitting image of her mama at that age. Lord have mercy. When that child laughs, the whole house hums. Sometimes, when she's playing on the porch, I swear the clocks start, ticking a little faster, like the house itself remembers what joy sounds like. One afternoon, while Lucy was painting with her little watercolors, she looked up at me with those wide hazel eyes and asked, Grandma, did you really know a man who could build forever? I laughed softly. I sure did, darling. But he learned something mighty important. Forever ain't made of machines. It's made of moments. She nodded like she understood every word. then went back to paintin'. The girl's got an old soul, that one. Later that day, after, the guests had gone and the sunset poured molten gold across the hills. I took a walk down to the cellar. It's different now. No more shadows, no more secrets. Just shelves of preserves, an old rocking chair, and a few of Henry's tools, hanging on the wall like memories frozen in time. On the far shelf, beneath a faded lantern, sat the pocket watch he sent me all those years ago, still open, still quiet, still beautiful. I picked it up and smiled. "You've been real patient, haven't you?" I whispered. The light from the lantern flickered, catching the edge of the glass, and for a heartbeat, I thought I saw him. Not a ghost, not a trick of the mind, just Henry, smiling, the way he used to, with that half-tired, half-mischievous look that said he was proud of me. I closed my eyes and let the moment wash over me. "I hope you're watching, love," I said softly. "Your little girl's all grown. Your granddaughter's painting sunsets. And this old house, well, it finally feels like home again." The wind outside sighed through the cracks, like the house itself was answering. I looked at the pocket, watched one last time and noticed something strange. The second hand had moved. Just once. A single tick. Then stillness. Tears welled up in my eyes, but they weren't sad. They were sweet, like the first sip of coffee after a long night. "Guess you just wanted to say hello," I whispered, kissing the watch before setting it back on the shelf. I sat there in the dim light, the smell of old wood and wildflowers drifting through the air, and thought about how far we'd come. From the secrets in that cellar to the peace in this moment. If life is a clock, then I reckon love's the gear that keeps it moving, and mercy's the oil that keeps it from rusting. My dear, if you're still here with me, thank you. Sometimes stories ain't about the pain we carry. They're about learning to put it down. If this one's touched your heart, even just a little, go on and subscribe. Stay with me a while longer. I still got one more piece of my story to share. The night before my 79th birthday, the rain came gentle, like a whisper on the roof. The house creaked and settled around me, humming its old song of time and memory. I sat in my chair by the parlor window, wrapped in my shawl, watching the stormlight dance across the rose garden. On the table beside me sat that same letter Henry wrote, the one I could never throw away. Its edges were soft now, its words nearly faded. I'd read it so many times. I didn't need to see the ink to remember what it said. "When you find peace, Ruth, real peace, I'll find my way back to you." I smiled, whispering, "Well, Henry, I think I finally did." Just then, Lucy toddled in, holding something behind her back. "Grandma," she said with a grin, "I made you a birthday present." She pulled out a small painting, a golden clock, its hands pointing to sunset. Around it, little brushstrokes of pink and violet bled into each other, like the sky was still learning to dream. My breath caught. "Did your mama help you with this?" Lucy shook her head. "Nope, but a man in my dream told me to paint it. He said you'd know what it means." My hand trembled. "A man?" "Uh-huh. He had kind eyes. Said he used to build forever." For a long moment, I couldn't speak. I just looked at her, that child born of love and time and mercy, and felt the tears come, soft, grateful, unstoppable. I pulled Lucy into my arms and held her close. "Oh, sweetheart," I whispered. "You've got no idea how right you are." The storm faded. The house went quiet again. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, I walked down to the cellar one last time. The lantern flickered, and the air smelled like dust and jasmine. The pocket watch was still there, glinting faintly in the dark. I picked it up, pressed the side button, and for the first time in 50 years, it started to tick. Tick, tick, tick. The sound filled the cellar like a heartbeat. Slow, steady, alive. I laughed softly through my tears. Took you long enough, Henry. Then I closed my eyes. In that moment, I swear I could feel him. Not as a ghost, not as sorrow, but as warmth. Like sunlight through old lace. The cellar didn't feel heavy anymore. The air felt lighter. The silence. Kinder. And when I finally went back upstairs, I left the door open, because some stories deserve to breathe. If you ever find yourself holding on to something that hurts, remember, love ain't meant to trap you. It's meant to teach you how to let go without losing what mattered most. And if someday you hear a clock tick where it shouldn't, don't be afraid. It might just be someone you loved, reminding you that time never really ends. It just changes hands.